Hello everyone, and welcome to Artful with Michelle. Today we're going to be painting my Rosie gnome. So the gnome is great for any time of the year, but especially sweet around Valentine's Day. I'm going to paint mine with a rosy pink hat, but of course you can use any color that you would like to match your decor, your decorating scheme. I am going to be using a 9x12 canvas today. You will also need a pencil, and we're going to start with 3 brushes. Somewhere around a 3/4 inch flat, but you can certainly use a smaller flat or larger if that's your preference. I have a 1/2 inch flat, and I have about a number 6 round. So you can change those up to suit your preference. If you're a painter, you probably have a collection. Also, you can do you can paint a larger or smaller canvas if you so desire. So I'm using some student grade liquid acrylic paints, and I'm using titanium white, chrome orange, phthalo red, which is really like a pink, cobalt blue, green oxide, chrome yellow, and Mars black. If I change anything or if I add any other colors in the course of the video, I will call them out, and I will also put them in the description down below. So let's get started. I'm going to make a mark a little bit below the halfway point in the center. So I'm center across, and coming down, I'm a little below center. And I'm going to draw a circle that is about the size of maybe a nickel. Okay. And then on each side of that circle, this is going to be his nose, and then we're going to create 2 nostrils. So they're like a circle, but you only see the outside portion. So about halfway down the side of the nostril, I'm going to come out and make a smaller circle. Now, if it continued, it would go into the nostril like that. I'll show you just for drawing purposes, okay? And then there we go. So it's like 3 circles. I'm going to just erase any extra lines. Okay, there we go. So from there, what we're going to do is come just maybe a 1/4 inch or so from the top center, and we're going to make a triangular shape. And we're going to come down to below the nostril. So we're going to make a mark here. We're going to look at our nose. We're going to come out to the left about 2 inches and down. And same thing over here. I noticed that one nostril is a little higher than the others. You can always adjust that when you paint. So I'm going to come down to the right side of the other nostril, and I'm going to make a point there. Okay, come out a little bit further. All right, so let's put our pencil at the lower portion of that nostril, and we're going to come down and touch the dot that we made there, and we're going to come down and touch the dot that we made here. I ended up making 2. And from there, I'm going to do a wiggly line up to that center dot. So I'm going to wiggle, and I'm going to narrow it in and come and touch that dot. And I'm going to come down the other side, wiggle, make a wiggly line, and touch the other side. And again, you can make adjustments. If I decide, I want to bump that out a little bit further, I'll bump it out further and just erase. You can also use chalk. From here, I'm just going to make a curved line on each side that comes down and goes inside the edge of where the hat is. All right, this one doesn't really require a pattern. It's really easy, and we're going to be creating a really full beard anyway, so we're going to cover anything here that isn't exactly how we want it. Okay, so we're going to start with our white and our black, and we're going to create a background. So I'm going to take my 3/4 inch brush. I'm going to wet it in my water. And I'm going to grab some white paint. And I'm going to start by putting some white down. And I'm going to grab a tiny, tiny bit of black like this on my brush. And I'm going to put it on top of the white. Grab more white. So I'm using a lot of white and just a tiny bit of black. I don't pre-mix it into a gray. Okay, I just blend on my canvas. I'm gonna keep adding white first, and then just add little bits of black in there. And I'm going to turn the brush sideways and use the straighter edge. And I'm going to go around the hat that way, immediately blending it out into the background. Now you could certainly paint the entire background and then draw your gnome on top. And I do that sometimes also. It kind of depends. Just depends on what I'm putting down on the canvas. Sometimes it depends on my mood and how long I want to take. Okay. So we're just going to go ahead and paint all around the gnome's hat. I keep grabbing a little more white. I lead more with the white because you can always add more black paint as you desire. If you put a lot of black paint down right at the beginning, you might have a much darker background than you like. All right, there we go. So I kind of like that. I did miss this little triangle in here, so I'm going to go in and get some paint in there. So turn your brush either the wide width or up on the edge, depending how you have to apply the paint. If you have to get into a tight area, you can turn it up on its edge. I'm going to add just a little more black in here, just a little bit. Again, this is just a matter of preference. You could make a blue sky background. That would be pretty also. Okay. I think I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to continue on the other side. White, little tiny bits of black. As you can see, a little tiny dot of black goes a long way. Going to get right on the edge. Now I'm right-handed, so being on the right side of the pattern is easier. If you're left-handed, brushing down the left side is easier. So lots of times you'll see when you watch me that I turn my canvas around, upside down or sideways, because I feel like there's a certain direction that it's just easier for your hand to get in there and do what you want it to do. And so I just flip it around. I'm adding black and white. And move these brushes here. Okay. And you can paint the edges also, but for purposes of this tutorial, I won't paint the edges while you watch that. That's pretty self-explanatory. Okay. So take a look and decide if you want to add any more. I do have more black here than this side, so I'm going to add just a little bit more over here. Little tiny bits. All right. Okay. So while I have this color out and my brush is wet with the gray, I'm going to grab some white and black and create a darker gray for the beard. We will be putting lots of brush strokes over that beard, so we do want it darker. You can make it very, very dark. Totally up to you. I'm able to use this larger brush to get in and around, but if it's too big, go ahead and change to one of your smaller ones. Whatever, I always tell my students, I give them a big assortment of brushes when they come to class, and I tell them to use the brush that feels most comfortable for them. also it's important to have your brushes in nice condition also. All right, almost there. And again, what I tend to do when I paint is I would bring the light gray down on each side, and then I usually bring the colors that touch the edges down to the bottoms or the sides, so that if they're hanging high or, you know, hanging on the wall from the sides, they look completed. Okay, so that doesn't have to be perfectly smooth or anything, and you can even come in and make the edges a little bit jagged like this. Okay. For this particular gnome, I paint his mustache and beard sort of as one continuous area, so it's not really evident that there's a mustache like there are on some of my other gnomes. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and rinse this brush. I'm going to leave it in the water there. I want to use the 1/2-inch brush for the hat, and then we'll work on the nose. So I'm going to wet my brush, touch it on my paper towel, and I'm going to use that Phthalo Red up the middle plus white. Okay. So lots of white there. And then I'm going to grab Phthalo Red plus Cobalt, and I'm going to mix it on my plate and hopefully come up with a really luscious purple. I like that color. That's pretty luscious. And I'm going to go ahead and create this edge. I think to do the other side, I will flip this upside down, but see what I'm doing? I take that purple and I just start blending it in toward the pink area. And I just lightly swish my brush. Just kind of get it to blend a little bit. We can come in and put a little more paint on it in a bit also, just to make it a little more solid. So I'm going to turn this sideways for me to complete this area above the beard and the nose. And I'm just going to continue to grab some of that mix of the Cobalt and the Phthalo Red. Now, you can certainly buy violets, purples, whatever colors you like, but I really, really like to mix my color and brush mix on my canvas as I'm going. These acrylics are not heavy body. Sometimes they tend to be a little bit transparent, but the more you get used to them, the more I think that you will fall in love with them. There are many brands out there. All right. I'm just going to fluff it. When I say fluff it, it usually means that I have a really, really light touch. Okay. I'm going to grab a little bit of the pink and kind of get it blended in there. Okay, very light touch. When you're blending your colors, just use a swishing. I use a motion of like the letter X kind of overlapping itself again and again like that. And a really, really light touch will get you a lot of blending without a lot of brush strokes. I'm going to go lightly back over this. Get a soft blend that I'm happy with. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the blue and the Phthalo Red that I've mixed into purple. Make a little more. When you brush mix like this and you mix on your canvas, it isn't critical that it's completely solid and that you get the same shade every time you dip your brush in it. That's one of the reasons that I like it. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go up the side. I'm going to wipe some of that paint off my brush. has a little bit more. I like to, I don't put a lot of paint on at one time when I paint. I tend to put a little on and I work my brush till it kind of runs out of paint, if that makes sense, because I find it attaches itself to the canvas that way nicely, and then I'm not pushing a bunch of wet paint around that has no place to go. So here you can see I didn't blend very much there, so I got more blue, but honestly I kind of like that. So let's get that up to the tip, and then we'll kind of fluff brush it into the hat. Come in and finish this up. I'm going to grab a little bit more of the red this time on my mix. Okay, now while that's nice and wet, I'll turn it back around right side up. And I just want to blend a little bit. We can come back to that. I'm going to grab a little white. Now my brush is dirty. I didn't wash it. I'm going to grab some white. And I'm just going to gently blend some white more up the center. And I want a little bit more. I want the hat to be lighter up the middle, and I want it to be darker around the edges. Again, we can keep coming back and adding to that also. Okay, up here at the top, I want to add a little bit more of the blue. Okay, all right. Let me turn this. I like to have nice crisp edges, so I want to come back over here with my brush and just kind of get that edge nice. I think having crisp edges comes from my days of painting on wood, decorative painting. You always want to have a nice edge. So here we go. Get a little bit more there. Okay. All right. Okay, I'm happy with that. It's still, it's not super soaking wet, but it's still damp enough that I can get in here and add more color and have the ability to blend. So I'm still going to get some more white up the center. I'm going to lightly just kind of blend it. Okay. You'll notice here, see my little pinky sticking out. The joke in my class is that when I have my pinky sticking out when I'm painting, it means I'm using a very light touch, like using a fancy feather duster. And so the joke is, you know, pinky out. If Michelle's pinky's out, that means we're using a really, really light touch. Okay. So you'll see how we have a lighter area up the center. Okay. Sometimes I just want to keep going and just keep on playing. Okay. Had a little dot of water there. All right, I'm going to rinse that brush out. His hat comes in a lot more on this side than that side, but I kind of like it a little bit lopsided like that. So I'm going to leave that alone. It is a gnome, and I don't think he has a mirror to check that his hat is perfection. Okay, so I'm just tidying that. Okay, so now for the nose. We're going to do the nostrils first. So I'm going to take my plate and I'm going to take a little bit of orange, a little bit of white, tiny bit of the red. Definitely want this to be light. Now, if you want a gnome with different skin tone, you can certainly add some different browns in here or whatever you would like. to change the skin tone to your liking. I'm just going to keep playing here till I get a sort of a peachy look that I like. And I want it to be on the light side, but not super light, because we are going to shade and highlight. So here we go. I'm going to paint each nostril. I'm using my round brush. Oh, that's a little bit brighter than I want. Let me grab some white there, that's better. And I'm just going to paint that nostril. I am going to turn this around every now and then, so I can get into those little areas. And I'm going to do the other nostril, so while I have this turned this way, I'll do this side. It's okay if I get some on the big part of the nose for now. All right. Okay, I'll smooth that out. All right, I'm going to wipe my brush a little bit, and I'm going to grab a little bit more of my orange and pink and a little white, and I'm going to make just a little bit darker color. And where the nostril touches the nose, I want to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to put some of that darker color there on this side, and I'm going to put some on the other side, so that's on the nostril where the nostril touches the big part of the nose. I'm going to rinse my brush a little bit, touch it on my paper towel, and I'm going to just very gently just kind of rub that in. Turn around, do the other one. You need to do this while it's wet. So I'm going to go into the peachy color, back into the darker color, and just kind of blend it in, and then wipe your brush. Over here, this nostril is still pretty wet, so I don't want to mess with it too much now, but we are going to go in and highlight there. So don't worry if it looks like that and you can see some purple hat through it. It's okay. We'll take care of that. So we're going to take our lighter version of our peachy pink color, and we're going to paint the circle part of the nose. So we're going to let that set up. Now we're going to come back to that in a little bit when it's dry. Okay. I can see already that I can come back to the hat because it's pretty dry. So you can see here where there's some areas where it could use a little bit more, a little bit stronger pigment, a little bit stronger color. So I'm going to mix up some more of that purplish color. And I'm going to come in and add just a little bit more, and mostly around my edges, and then I'll just fluff it into the middle a little. As it goes to the middle, I'll just add a little white, grab a little pink and a little blue. Basically, I don't want to see a lot of canvas through my paint, so that's the whole purpose for this. I keep getting a little bit more white in the middle and kind of blending that out into the color a little bit. All right, turn it upside down. I'm going to get a little bit more. Okay, I like that better. Make it a little, oops, that was white. I didn't really want to grab white. So you see how I leave it? Like if I grab my paint and there's a little more blue and I don't have much pink, for something like this, I enjoy seeing these different colors. I'm going to grab a little white here and blend this. Okay, I'm content with that. I'm going to leave that as is. We're going to work on the beard, and I actually like to work it upside down because I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up to the face. And it's just easier for me to layer it that way, okay? Because I want the top hairs on top of the bottom. And you'll see what I mean. So I am going to take my round brush. I'm going to wet it. And I'm going to take some white and a little bit of black. And I'm going to make a gray. I want it to be not super, super dark or light, but lighter than the base of my beard. And then we'll come back in with some white also. So I'm just going to kind of fill my brush with some gray. And holding him upside down, I'm going to start pulling from the base up. And I'm going to give this a shape by how I turn my brush. So here in the middle, my brush strokes are going to be fairly straight. And as I come out to the sides, I'll start going out to the shape that is in the beard, okay? And this will build up and you'll see. So I'm making my hairs. I have to keep reloading. I take a little bit of water, go into my gray, and come in. And as I put these hairs in, my pinky's out, I'm holding my brush higher up the handle. The higher up you go, the easier it is to be a little bit more free with your stroke. When you want to be detailed, then I hold it down really closer to the bristles like you would a pencil. But when you want to be more loose with your stroke, you hold it up higher. And I'm just going to pull, and each layer is going to slightly overlap the layer below it or above it, depending how you look at it. And I want to see some dark gray showing through. I don't want to cover up all that super dark gray. And as I get in closer, there's a little bit of purple there. I'm not worried about that. As I get in closer to the face, I do want to leave a little bit of darkness under the nose. So see how in the middle I kind of go straight and then I start to curve it. So with your brush stroke, you're actually going to help give this shape. Okay, by turning your brush stroke a certain way. And then here in the middle, I go straight under the nose. And then I curve to the other side. Okay, so I'm going to turn this right side up so you can see how this is starting to develop. Okay, pretty neat. So take a look at him right side up. And look at it and just ask if you like the shape. And you know, I kind of like the shape, but I'm currently mixing just a little bit more gray. Right side up, I'm just going to take a little look and see where I might want to let the beard come out a little bit more, and I'll just put a couple of strokes. But honestly, I do better with this upside down, and I think you will too. So let's turn this back around upside down. I'm using my brush still in the gray, but I'm adding more white. You can see here on my plate, I'm adding a little bit more white. And I'm going to repeat this step, and going to continue to let some of those two colors that are already applied to the canvas still peek through here and there. So pinky's out. I'm holding the brush high up on the handle because I want to be very loose with my brush stroke. You do have to have a certain amount of water in with your paint to help it flow off your brush. Again, very, very light touch. curving in on this side. Curving in. So you're curving in toward the nose. In the middle, I'm going to go a little bit on the straight side. Isn't this fun? Lift it up a little closer for you. I love this design. It's really easy to paint. It's great for a beginner or an advanced painter just to relax and have a good time. So, I also want to throw a few little hairs out onto the hat. So to look like the mustache area is just kind of sticking out a little bit. So I'm going to take mostly white and I'm going to put a little bit here like this. Same thing over here. I'm going to throw a little bit out onto the hat. Alright, now as this dries, whenever you add white as highlights, it tends to really just kind of sort of fade into the background a little bit as it dries. So I'm going to come in, we'll let this set up a little, and then we'll come in and we'll add some more white highlight. And I'm going to turn this right side up so I can really see the direction I want those mustache hairs to go in, because right over here is looking just a little wonky. So let's turn it around. Oh yes, that's better. So I'm going to just come in like this and just put a few hairs right side up. I can see a little better on the directional there. And then I'm going to come out and fluff some here. All right, a little bit of, there was a little wet purple right there in the hat, and but I'm digging that, so I'm going to leave that. I tend to go with the flow. I paint a lot of whimsy, and I want to enjoy it. So a little bit of purple. Hey, I put a purple streak in my hair every now and then. So, okay, I'm having too much fun there to stop on those extra hairs. So let's get our white highlight in now. I'm just going to come in and add a little bit of white on top of the other hairs. You notice that the bottom colors are not completely covered up. If you cover them, you're going to lose your depth and dimension. So let them show through. You need that dark in there as well as your light. Okay. I'm just coming in, and you can make him really crazy hairy if you want. I recommend kind of stepping back from your work, your creation as you go, because when you're right on top of it, sometimes you can't really see what it's looking like till you stand back a bit. Another tool that I think helps my students a lot, my in-person students, is I tell them to go ahead and take their phone and look at their painting through the lens of their phone camera. And sometimes you notice things that way that you don't with the naked eye. Helps me a lot when I want to check my designs. Okay, so I want to leave it darker under the nose to help show that it goes in and the nose sticks out more. Okay, so yay, looking cute. I want to go ahead and work on this nose a bit. It's a little on the pink side. And I want to take a little bit of white. I'm going to stick with that round brush. I'm going to take a little bit of white and I'm going to put it on the edge of the nostril like this. And I'm just going to brush inward. I'm going to do the same on this side. Now this side has a lot of purple showing through. And I would like to eliminate that, or at least improve it. So I'm going to add my white there. I'm just going to softly blend. Then I'm going to do the same on the outside edge of the big part of the nose. Okay, we're going to get some white there. Blend it onto the nose. I'll probably come back in and do this upper part again because I went a little high and you can still see a little purple, but it's not too bad. I'm going to roll this around And I want to put a little bit more on the bottom too. So let's see, try to get that right in front of the camera for you. Right in here, let's go ahead and put a little bit more, rounding that out a bit. There we go. And then what we can do is wipe our brush. We can make some dark gray, and we can come in here. Let me just get some black. Right in through here. I want to get a little bit more black in there. Just kind of brush it out, just to keep that that shadow underneath that nose. I'm just kind of blending it out a little bit. All right, so that looks pretty good. I'm happy with that. You can always come back and go back and forth with this area just to make it look a little bit natural, how the hairs are coming out. So I might come in, now that I added some black, I'll just come in and add a little bit like that. All right, so I'm pretty happy with this in general. Now right in through here, I'm going to add a little more white in a bit, but now I want to add a couple of roses to this Rosie Gnome. So I'm going to use this pointed round brush still. I really like it. And I'm going to create a rose right around here and maybe up on this side. I do have a spot here where my purple got a little thin, but I think I'll probably just add some leaves there. So I'm going to take some of my Phthalo Red, which is actually like a pink color, and I'm going to mix a little bit of white with it. And right over here, I'm just going to wiggly paint a circle. It's about the size of a quarter maybe. I'm referencing coins, American US currency. It's maybe an inch or a little bit over an inch. And let's go ahead and put another one here. All right, and then over on this side, I'm going to grab and do another little rose right here. You can make it smooth. You can make the sides a little bit wiggly. Okay, so we're going to let that dry just a bit. While it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and make some leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my yellow Oxide and a little bit of my, I'm sorry, I mix those colors up all the time, chrome yellow and green Oxide. And I'm going to mix them into this luscious lime green, which I'm pretty fond of. And I'm also going to take a little tiny bit of white. And I'm just going to put this brush down and press and pull in toward my roses, and I'm going to make some little leaves. So I'm just going to, wherever I'd like, I'm going to grab some of the green straight too and make some that are just more of the green. Okay, I like to do little clusters of 3 a lot. Up here, let me pick this up so you can see this a little bit more up close. And I'm just going to pull. I call it pulling. I'm going to grab some more yellow on my brush and a little bit of white and just kind of rub it on my plate and then come in and make some of those brighter colors. Now right in here is that little spot. So rather than fuss about that, I'm just going to grab some more of this light green and yellow, and I'm going to come in and just put a couple of leaves there. I'm a big fan of the lime green. Love it. Okay. So cute. All right, let me put that back down. I like to use one of these brush basins. You can see mine has a lot of mileage on it. And then over here, I clean my brushes on this grid. That's the little noise you hear when I'm cleaning my brush. So I'm going to grab a little bit more white and touch up this nose where there's some purple showing through. It's getting quite white, but you know what? I kind of like it because it really just kind of goes along with the beard, but you can adjust it with some of your oranges and your reds if you want it different. Okay. Put a little bit more here at the bottom of the nose too. I'm a little bit fussy about my edges. Alright, super cute. Alright, our roses, while they're setting up there, I want to make sure I have some darker centers. So I'm going to take a little bit of that pink and maybe a little bit of blue and just make a little bit of a darker color. And I want to create a center on these roses. So this one I'm going to do off to the right a little bit. Again, a little bit of blue, a little bit of pink. And this one, I think I'll have it tipping forward to the left, upward to the left. So I'm going to make a little darker area there. And maybe a couple little darker areas down in the bottom. These are very loose, very, very simple roses, nothing fancy. And I'm going to do a little dabble right up in here that's darker. And maybe just add a little bit of darker area. Okay. While those are drying, I'm going to make some little stems for the leaves. So I tend to take the lime green and I add some white. For this particular one, I like it like this because the hat is dark and the lighter color will show nicely on the hat. And I'm just going to make some little stems. So I'm going to use that color for the leaves, for the stems that are on the hat. Come in. Stay up on the tip of your brush. Okay, so out here on the gray, the lime green isn't going to show as well. So I'm going to take more of the green oxide on my brush. I'm going to roll it. Stay up on the tip of this brush, okay? So stay right up on the tip and just go ahead and make your darker stems. Turn this around a little bit. I'll bring it up so you can see. And I'm just going to make some stems. And over here I'm going to add white because the dark green won't show as well there. Okay. Now these leaves right here need a little bit more. This little stem. Okay. So there we go. I'm going to get my 1/2 inch flat brush out and fix something that I see up in here. Not crazy what happened there with my stroke as I went off the canvas. So I'm just going to come in wherever I see that maybe I didn't get full coverage, or I saw some brush strokes up here that I just want to take care of. If you have a lot of room, it's best to just run your brush right off the canvas when you're doing your background. I'm a little limited on space here on this desk with my camera set up. There. Okay, so we'll leave well enough alone there. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is just add some pink and white strokes around these roses just to give them the rest of their shape. So I'm going to take some white. You can see over here I'm just using white and pink. You can even take in a little bit of orange if you want. And what I'm going to do is just make some little sort of just strokes that end up making a circular shape. And I'm just going to go very light, and I'm going to let the background show through. So I'm going to create lines around this purple that made the center. Make it a little brighter. Kind of touching part of that purple. I'll raise this so you can, takes me a minute to get it right under the camera for you. And then we're just going to continue. I'm going to go from the edges in. Okay. Then you might want to come back in and just add a little bit more around. And then on the outside edge a little bit. Just make it a little bigger. I'm okay if a little bit of green comes out on it, like what happened there. I kind of like it. I'm going to do the same thing on this itty bitty one. So I'm going to turn it so that it makes the most sense for me for the angle of my hand. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm hoping that that's right there where you can see it really well. Don't want too much paint on my brush. And I'm going to do the same thing where I just create some little lines that give the illusion of a rose shape. I kind of like that one just the way it is. And now we have one left up here on the tip of the hat. And let's see, we're going to do the same thing. A little bit of lines around our darker area. I'm going to come out. Now these are just kind of like dashes, and I don't want them to be perfectly symmetrical from one side of the rose to the other, or just perfectly formed. Just come in and let your brush kind of dance and just get some dashes in there, and there we go. Super cute. I'm gonna get a little bit more. I want to come in and make some brighter areas here and there, and then go ahead and extend your circle too. All right. So this is looking really cute. I'm happy with it. I'm going to grab some more white and I'm going to come in, just make some of it a little bit brighter. Same thing up here. It's the lights against the darks that give you a nice dimension. And let's go ahead and brighten this one up too. I really, really like it, but I just want to add a little bit more brightness to it. Okay. So you can keep going and just add more and more. Obviously, I know sometimes people say you have to know when to stop, and it is kind of hard to know when to stop, but just paint it to your liking and stop when you feel satisfied that you have it the way you want it. One other thing that I would do on this one, I still have my pencil handy, so I'm going to use that. My brush handles don't have a super sharp point, so I'm just going to use my pencil tip, and I'm going to dip in the white, and I'm going to use it to make some little dots. Maybe it might look a little like baby's breath. I like it. It adds a lot of highlight, I think. And I want to put some out here. I'll go up here. So basically 1, 2, 3. I just keep going. I do a lot of clusters of 3, but sometimes I just like to have fun and keep going too. All right. Now, one of the other things you might want to do is sign your name. I usually just do my initials, MM, so I'm going to make some gray. And over here in the lower corner, I'm just going to sign my initials, MM. And that concludes my Rosie Gnome tutorial. Here's a last close-up for you. I hope you enjoyed painting with me today, and I look forward to painting with you again real soon. Have a wonderful creative day.